the Donald Trump clown show continues.
What's going on today?
Well, Trump is claiming he's got a trade deal with Vietnam.
What kind of trade deal?
Well, here's the thing. He put out this social media post, right? He's like, hey, we made this great deal. I had a phone call with Vietnam. Vietnam confirmed that there was a phone call.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure they did call each other.
You wasn't a letter phone call?
So we don't know. Trump's been threatening to send letters to everyone. It's like, if you don't deal with me, I'm just going to send you a letter and ha-ha. So I think there actually was a phone call.
Okay.
Vietnam is saying they have some sort of framework, and people are kind of questioning, is that like concept of a plan? But this is what the U.S. has been doing, is like they're running a reality TV show, right? And so Trump, you guys know when you watch The Bachelor, is like, who's going to get the final rose next week, right? Tune in. And the problem is that they're not getting any like things by the deadline.
Yeah.
So they're pushing for countries to like agree to, quote, frameworks. Oftentimes these frameworks are like, hey, will you talk with me again? It's like, will you date with me again next week? Okay, I'll date with you.
Hold my hand.
Yeah. But it's like, are we getting married? No, definitely not that, right?
Yeah.
So, but one of the things with the framework is he's saying that the USA is going to sell a whole bunch of SUV cars to Vietnam. What do you think about that?
SUV car in Vietnam? That's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
It seems like he doesn't know anything about Vietnam. Because what they drive is motorbike, right?
Yeah, it's like 90% motorbikes in Vietnam, 10% cars. That's cars, right? So we're not counting SUVs. Because the thing is, like, he literally said SUV.
Just SUV?
Well, he mentioned SUV specifically, and then he mentioned, he said, like, SUVs are better known as, like, large engine vehicles, which was kind of a weird way to state it. The reason why he's stating it that way is, like, it has to do with taxing. So basically, Vietnam will tax on the size of the vehicle, which basically means that, like, regular Vietnamese, okay, one car is really expensive for them, just a car.
Yeah, because tariffs sometimes over 100%.
Yeah. So, like, do you want to pay double the price of a car, right? So, probably not, right? Let alone SUV, which is more than a typical car. So it's like, it's crazy. and then you get into the issue of, like, okay, you have to understand from the sort of Trumpy perspective, or many people who like Trump, they think that every market wants to buy American products, right? It's not necessarily the case. No. So in the Vietnam case, like, most people drive motorbikes, right?
Just motorbike. Even they, when they move the refrigerator, they just use motorbike. Delivery motorbike. Whole family, 4 people in one motorbike.
Seriously, and for those of you,
crazy with motorbike,
for those of you guys who have been to Vietnam or other countries, like, because I think it's more than Vietnam that does that, you'll be shocked the kind of stuff they can put on a motorbike. It's actually pretty crazy. And the refrigerator thing is real. They're just like, dang. And then in terms of the like, say 4 people on a motorbike in USA, it just wouldn't fly. Like you'll see people, and I think we've seen it. This is a true story. Like, I think we might have seen people breastfeeding on the motorbike. I think you'll see that, and that'll be like the dad will be driving, the mom will be in the back. I don't know if the mom would drive and do the breastfeeding. No. I don't know. No, don't think that every Vietnamese does this, but I'm just saying you will see it.
Yeah.
We'll see it. And
they have a little market with their motorbike, right? They're selling even the goldfishes in the motorbike.
Now, it doesn't mean that necessarily Vietnamese hate SUVs. It's just economically it doesn't make
their lifestyle.
Well, the financially they can't afford it, right? Because let's say, for example, hey, would you rather have 4 people in a car or a motorbike? Well, sure, if you can afford it. It's the same way, guys, hey, would you like to have a bigger house? I mean, yeah, I'd like to have a bigger house, but I mean, stuff costs money. For example, in Vietnam, the average salary is anywhere between, like, say, $5,000 to $7,000 a year. The average cost of, say, a car in USA these days is like 45 to 50 grand. And
when they send those cars to Vietnam, it's gonna be double.
Right. So do you guys see the math doesn't add up? And okay, so let's pretend in this fantasy world that Trump has, because Trump's trying to make the case that Vietnam's gonna put all their taxes and tariffs to zero. Let's pretend that math, okay? So with the current system in place, yes, cars would cost double, which is kind of ridiculous, right? So that's out of the question. But let's pretend that they reduce it. So the market of people who actually have the money to buy it is very small. Then you have the issue of the whole infrastructure, meaning the streets, the parking lots. Like what do you see in Vietnam in terms of parking, for example?
Basically, the regular town, regular street, there's no parking.
Yeah. Basically, there's just no parking
no
lots.
parking. They just put on, you know, they just put a street.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know the exact percentage in front of me, but if you guys want to write in the comments, you can. I've seen several sort of like maps or sort of studies of USA. USA is actually the most of our land is parking lots.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you would argue, okay, so I should say like maybe you could argue maybe cornfields and then parking lots, but in terms of like actual city design
facility.
Yeah, because if you guys just think about your city where you live, think about say the Home Depot or the IKEA or shopping mall, whatever. There's like freaking parking lots everywhere. Or think about your house. Your driveway is actually a large percentage of your property. It's a parking lot. So what I'm saying is like much of the U.S. like cities and just lifestyles based on cars, which we all kind of know. And I think the Americans then assume that every other country in the world is like that, but
it's not like that.
No, in Vietnam, there's literally nowhere to park. So you would have to tear down so many buildings to build parking lots for these SUVs. Now, when they do build a new building, because they do, and in the same way, say here in Korea, they build new buildings, but they're not really designed for like a big Hummer kind of like.
Yeah, not really. Even now, Vietnam, they don't really go for the car even when they're planning the city.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not planning for cars.
They're planning more for public transportation and even the electronic motorbike.
Yeah.
Not the car.
So it's funny that Yeji brings up electric motorbike because I was talking to you guys about this before where Trump is under the assumption that I guess theoretically we're going to sell all these American cars, which doesn't make sense. And then theoretically we would, for example, have all these factory jobs come from Vietnam to the USA. We're going to build a bunch of stuff in USA and then I guess sell it to Vietnam. Like how does that make sense? It doesn't make sense
at all. And even if the Vietnamese drive cars, a lot of cars, but there's not just USA car, even Chinese car, Korea car, even Chinese they're gonna build a factory in the Vietnam.
Right. And chances are they're gonna build electric motorbikes.
Sure.
Right, which is more suitable for the market. It makes sense in terms of like your infrastructure. It makes sense in terms of costs, right? And then culturally, it also makes sense. Like maybe people this culture like, I don't really want, that. Now here's another thing you gotta think about because it's important because I know that Trump, it's actually been a big part of all his negotiations. He's been saying like, we're gonna make you buy American cars and we're gonna make you buy American food. How much, do you remember how much, because we used to live there, how much is like, say, lunch in Vietnam, like around?
Like $2-3?
Something like that. It's really cheap. It's really cheap.
$5? Include dessert.
Yeah. And actually, this is a true story. If you go to, say, like a foreign brand, say, for example, like a Starbucks kind of thing, that will cost more than your lunch. Seriously. So I bring that up is because the idea that we're going to like be sending a whole bunch of American food to Vietnam, like the math doesn't really make sense, let alone selling the SUVs. Again, the math doesn't make sense. It's not just the math and then the actual product because you have to sell products that are successful in the current market. Now, here's another example. So don't think that necessarily Vietnamese don't want to buy American products. So a good example would be something like an iPhone.
Yeah, iPhone is really popular among the Vietnamese, but not everyone can afford it.
Right.
So even if it's popular, but some people they cannot buy it.
Yeah, and here's a good example. Many people are watching this are like, but Chris, I'm in America now and I can't afford an iPhone. For real. Because like guys, we are talking about when the next iPhone comes out, and I told Yeji like, if these are well over $1,000, I'm just like,
I just say, you can change, I can wait.
Yeah, that's literally what she said. So it's like, because, I would like a new phone, but when you see the price of these dang things, so let alone the market of Vietnam, and again, when your average salary is like $7,000 or something like that, there's so many problems, and I think a lot of this is based on, honestly, if you understand our markets and our economy, the assumption is that we're going to have endless growth forever. That's the assumption, right? Because the stock market's built on, hey, buy my stock because my company's going to keep growing in profits. But what if, for example, people don't have money? So what if, say, as we're going to see, we're hitting a recession and like people don't have jobs? Are you going to go out and buy a new phone or SUV? No. And then, okay, so then you can understand that in USA, but then the idea would be we're going to go find new markets in like a Vietnam or other places. But like they're looking at American products and it's like, no, it doesn't make sense. So for American companies to theoretically continue to be growing, you need to adjust to the market you're trying to sell to, and it may not necessarily be what you think it is. And then you would have to do a whole new redesign, just for example. So Ford, Chevy, just for example, they could theoretically, design motorbikes
theoretically,
right? But in my opinion, this whole conversation is, I would prefer mass transit myself. That's sort of where I'm at on that, or bicycles or everything, because I think the environment does matter, and that's something that Vietnam has to wrestle with as in their development, which is very interesting than USA. They kind of skip steps, right? So here's a good example. Think about the development of computers in USA, where at one point, calculator was a big thing, it was like a new technology, like a calculator. And then when I was a kid, the calculator watch was kind of cool. It was like a little, no, seriously. And then after that, everyone started to get home computers, but they were kind of big and bulky. And then now suddenly now we're at laptops, then you go to tablets and blah blah. But say in the Vietnam situation, there was a period where they didn't really have any of this technology, and they basically went from a society of like kind of no one really has a computer, then suddenly everyone has a phone. So they're kind of skipped this sort of middle-ish thing.
For other example is, for example, China, there's cash, credit card, and app pay.
Oh,
but
right.
now they jump to cash to the pay app.
Yeah, where they're just going cashless now over there?
No cash.
Wow. Yeah, that's really different. When I lived in China, true story. People used to take like we call it sandwich bags or lunch bags. So the brown ones that are kind of like about this size. Yeah. Anyone in USA would know exactly. And people just like take tons of cash in that stuff. It was completely ridiculous. And one of the problems is because their currency only had like small denominations. And so there was always talk like, should you make a bigger denomination? So what's that?
So these days, when you want to travel China, you have to have certain kind of app.
You on have your phone?
Yeah, pay app. Then if you don't have it, you can't, travel.
Because we were talking about going, and we'll see if we end up going. She doesn't want to go. I'd like to go, but that's another conversation for another time. I would like to go, but anyway, just any of these conversations is talk to people from said countries, talk to people that that have traveled to said places, and they'll tell you the same thing. There are just some products that are made in America that won't be successful in places like Vietnam. And when Trump complains that they won't take the products, well, make products that will be successful in that market, and you can do okay. Try to force products that people don't want to buy. It's just not going to work. So anyway, that's our thoughts on this. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch you on the next video. So bye.